In a world where Bungie neglects every aspect of their core game, values being fast over providing quality content, and actively suppress their developers from creating content that players would love, there may be only one solution to make Destiny feel whole. Forge custom content. See, the original Forge began even before Halo. It started its life as a map editor for Bungie's old FPS trilogy Marathon. Fans were able to create and modify every aspect of the levels, from designing entire rooms to adding textures, and it proved to be a very accessible way fans could interact with the content and extend the life of the game with endless replayability, with various custom missions and multiplayer arenas. Players making content they would want to play themselves. Now that sounds oddly familiar. Where have I heard something similar?
No matter what, that's who Bungie is. We're always going to make what we want to make, and we're going to make it a game that we want to play.
Ah yes, thank you Marty for reminding me. Bungie used to believe in the idea that making games they wanted to play would allow them to make the best game possible. And you know what? They were right. We've seen a trend towards this idea lately in gaming. Not from AAA studios, of course, because they have different priorities nowadays, and they don't value making quality products. Instead, we see this trend take hold of the indie scene and other mid-sized studios. The most recent example that comes to mind is Dark and Darker, a dungeon-crawling Elder Scrolls style take on the extraction shooter genre. The game is surprisingly a ton of fun and took control of an entire weekend for me with its recent playtest. And what do you know? The developers have gone on record to say this: "We will make the game our own. We created a company to make games the way we want. If we can't do that, I'll just close the company."
Like, people are kind of getting disappointed with the direction of the overall industry, how it's moving, and in terms of how it's monetizing and how it's, I guess, in terms of the respect for the audience and the gamers. It was getting, to us, it felt like, oh, you're kind of getting to this line where it's getting a little bit more predatory. And so, there was a group of us and the developers that were not as comfortable. And we're like, okay, this is not exactly what we signed up for. That kind of disturbed us. And we wanted to try to do something where it's kind of more like a love song and a passion. It definitely is a passion project, but kind of going back to like the old style games that we played when we were growing up.
And it's no surprise that a company with that mindset managed to reach nearly 70,000 players and sit consistently around 50,000 daily during its playtest. Now getting back to Bungie.
No matter what, that's who Bungie is. We're always going to make what we want to make, and we're going to make it a game that we want to play.
They no longer believe in that idea. According to the general manager for Destiny 2, Justin Truman, "We make games we want to play" sounded a little too much like it was just gatekeeping for bald, middle-aged white guys like me. Yes, he actually said that. So for a company that's abandoned the idea of making a product they want to play, or something they would enjoy themselves, that leaves the players who actually do want to enjoy the game feeling a bit awkward. Why would I play a game that Bungie themselves wouldn't want to play? Well, that leads us down the road of the rest of this entire GDC presentation full of hilarious quotes and generic Silicon Valley speak, and we're not going to get into all of it for this video. Instead, we're going to turn to the idea that current day Bungie might be wise to at least bring one of their ideas from old Bungie into Destiny 2. After the success and popularity of Marathon's map editor, it only made sense that something similar would come forward to Bungie's new IP Halo, and it didn't launch right away for Combat Evolved. But by 2004, after porting the game to PC, Gearbox Software bestowed their Halo editing kit for the Halo Custom Edition, which featured 3 separate programs that assisted in the creation of Halo maps. Now, these programs weren't totally user-friendly in the same way Marathon's map editor had been. However, these tools were far more powerful than anything that'd come before, and are still used and supported by a dedicated community today. However, it wouldn't be until Halo 3 that basic map editing would become popular. Halo 3's Forge mode was even more simple and accessible than Marathon's because it had to fully work with a standard Xbox 360 controller. Yet despite its simplicity, it allowed players to create insanely fun custom content. Players could even create that content together in the same lobby, up to 8 players all editing together. It could be little changes like moving weapon spawns or vehicles around, or completely changing up the entire design of an existing map, or making something entirely unique and creative. Forge inspired players to create content they wanted to play, and because of that, it would be one of the largest reasons for Halo's success, and how the Halo games continued to stay alive long after their release dates. Hell, Halo Reach is still providing high quality game nights with the boys, thanks to Forge custom games.
Bro, I'm not done.
Back in 2010, you could have a long-lasting, high-retention game just by having something super high quality, well-balanced, and unchanged that players keep coming back to for years and years. See, but Justin, my friend, this is still true today, as noted by countless games. Some games, even from those early 2010s, are still played in mass, even despite not getting a whole bunch of changes. The most notable being Counter-Strike. How many years have people been playing on Dust 2? And it still has nearly 1 million players daily. But even more relevant to the idea of Forge, we should look at Skyrim, a game that has been out for over 10 years. A single-player RPG that provides infinite replayability, and not just because of mods. In fact, a lot of Bethesda games don't even need mods to stay relevant. They are games that stand the test of time and provide so many different ways to play that they can keep their players around forever. If you've ever played Fallout New Vegas, you'll know that there are so many ways to approach the game that you will never have the same 2 playthroughs. Now, if you add mods on top of that framework, you get a game that consistently pulls numbers similar to Destiny 2 in the Steam charts. A single-player RPG versus a constant drip feed live service. Similarly, we can look at Call of Duty Zombies, which during the 2010s consistently thrived and skyrocketed the Zombies game mode into massive popularity because of one thing: custom zombies. Now, Zombies was great on its own, don't get me wrong. Many people played the Treyarch-only maps for years because of how good they were. But when custom zombies became mainstream, it was up to the imagination of the creator of the map to make what they wanted from their own Call of Duty Zombies experience, which gave players years of nearly infinite content with, of course, the occasional S-tier zombie map from a few talented individuals. It satiated the desire for new content during the in-between time of a Call of Duty release cycle. Now, these 3 games are just a few of the many examples of we make games we want to play, but in this case, it's not just because the game was great from the beginning, it's because players were then told, here, go make something you want to play. And then we got some of the best content in the entire game, and it's made by some talented fans. This is what Destiny 2 needs. It needs its Forge, its custom zombies, its talented fan expansions. There is a version of Destiny that many of us want to play, and current Destiny 2 is not it. But with some potential mod tools, or even just a Forge mode, I could find myself loving the game again. Could you imagine the community getting to design a raid in Destiny with the use of Forge or mod tools? Basic Forge tools could allow more simple stuff like moving existing things around or adding ammo boxes or increased damage numbers. You know, just the smaller stuff. But maybe a template could be given that gives players the tools to actually make something from scratch. Far Cry 5's map editor is an example of letting the player create something completely massive and near AAA quality with easy to use tools. With the amount of creativity and passion Destiny players have for the franchise, I can see us getting some incredible content from modded or custom Forge style content. And it doesn't even have to get to the point of being custom raids or something big like that. It could even just be the type of stuff similar to Halo Forge for PvP. You know, the meme kind of survival modes like Infected or something completely crazy. Destiny players could even be the ones to finally make Sparrow Racing a thing again, since Bungie just refuses to bring back that fan favorite on their own. It's time to give some power to the players who know what they want, Bungie. Because when you throw away a motto like "we make games we want to play," you lose the players who notice how that has affected your game. Long before it was ever public that you threw away this motto. Bungie does not care that some of us, or most of us, want something different from Destiny. Instead, Bungie just want to give us what they know will sell the most microtransactions and what will keep us hooked on their FOMO design. because FOMO is what keeps the engine running on Destiny. But what keeps the engines running on games like these? Quality, long-lasting, replayable content, and community creativity. While making this video, I was reminded of World of Warcraft, which long before there was ever the more recent classic WoW, players found a way to create their own vanilla private servers that existed as the state of the game did during vanilla. I've always loved that idea, preserving and playing whichever version of the game you wanted, server options to experience whichever you prefer. Currently there's a way to play Destiny 1 in 2 different states, and it's kind of fun to try out if you haven't. One state is the game that exists as it does today, post Age of Triumph. This version is what we see on the Xbox One and the PS4. The other state of the game exists as it was during the April update timeframe, which is confined to the Xbox 360 and PS3 version of the game. There aren't insanely drastic differences between the state of the game, but there are some pretty major ones, including the PvP balance of the April update, which you could argue is better than the state D1 is post Age of Triumph. So if you want to experience that, go get your 360 or PS3 and boot up D1. Similarly, I'm sure many of you would like to re-experience Destiny 2 in the state it was during Forsaken or Warmind or Season of Opulence, or any time that you're fond of. And if there were mod tools that allowed for such a thing, I can see the popularity of it being insanely high. But I highly doubt we'll ever see Bungie endorse that idea because they care very little about game preservation, as made apparent by how easy it was for them just to delete half their game overnight. They don't care that some people love the Red War campaign and want to replay it, because fuck you, buy our new expansion, says Bungie. I don't care what you have to say about what you want from Destiny, I will tell you how and what to play, when and how I want you to. You see, Bungie, I don't think your player retention is working out as well as you think. You claim Destiny 2 has grown 20 million new Guardians since the Activision split, 5 million in just the last year. Where are they? Average player counts have stayed relatively the same over these last few years. So either all 5 million new accounts just came and went, or it's just a slow turnover process where this week we lose 10,000 active players but we gain 20,000 new players. However, only 7,000 decided to stick around till the next week. You know, you get the idea. Destiny 2 has to have a massive turnover if we're supposed to believe the figures provided by Bungie, which just isn't a good sign for player retention. So you don't need to be fast. Really, you don't. High quality content-rich games can last and often do. But if you're neither, then you're completely fucked. I think the best example where neither fast nor quality was applicable is with Halo Infinite. I'll give it some credit. Halo Infinite had solid gameplay, but it had horrible progression, a fraction of the content in terms of maps, modes, armor sets, and a fraction of the features of previous Halo games. No split screen co-op, no Forge, so many important features just missing. And then the game died off because either Microsoft pulled resources from the product after seeing its flop, or 343 really is that incompetent and take over a year to add one new map to the game. I don't think Halo Infinite would have died off as fast as it did if it delivered the amount of content that Halo Reach had at launch. And I also want to say that I don't think it would have stayed alive even if 343 were fast. How your product is at launch is important, and it sets a precedent for what players can expect. I don't want to say Bungie is talentless and that they don't know how to run a live game, because clearly they do, but I think it's also important to point out that Bungie did kind of get lucky with Destiny. Destiny was the World of Warcraft for the modern era. It was the first AAA-sized live service, the same way WoW was the first major AAA MMO. Destiny got in at just the right time when people were willing to be patient and watch it grow into something more. But nowadays, we've all been through the ringer of dog shit live service game launches, and players don't want to subject themselves to waiting anymore, which is why you see nowadays how many games as a service completely flop. Because even if there is some potential, and with some of them there really are, it's too late. Players are done waiting around. And let's just hear from Justin Truman one more time, who says, "A fast game will become great, but a great slow game will very quickly fall behind." I reject this idea entirely. Even if we ignore single-player games of the past, and look only at the modern multiplayer games, the ones that are succeeding had to be great from the start, and the ones that fail, you know failed because they weren't good from the get-go. And this quote, I think, is blinded by the idea that they got lucky with Destiny. So my plea to all of you who are future game developers, focus on making games you want to play, and make them great. Do not settle for mediocrity and the assembly line cookie-cutter fast updates. Instead, make something you're proud of. If you build it,
people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.